Hi everyone, welcome to a new series of videos for the simulation community, where we'll do a look back on the SimCom list and see how the candidate stocks in that list performed from that period. Each weekend we go through a cycle, and a group performs this process religiously, where they review through their weekend process, they review their watch lists and then upload to a communal list their candidate stocks. And so we crowdsource that effort, culminates in the SimCom list each week. And then from there, the folks in the group can take a look at those and see if there are any other stocks that they want to consider for their own watch list, and then see how the list overall performs. So this week, what we'll do is we'll also include a quick review of the IBD50 stock list of that week. And the week we're looking at, given our look back period, is about 6 months. So we're going to be looking at the weekend of January 4th, 2025. So just approximately a six month look back. We're looking for two things, and we'll slice the data two ways. One, we want to look at the performance of the candidate stocks in those lists as of that week and see how they performed over the ensuing 6 months. So for the IBD50, we'll take a look at it by the order of the ranking. So if the IBD50 is ranked 1 through 50, typically the stocks making up that top 15 are generally the stronger list candidates. So we'll take a look at those, and then we'll also do something similar with the SimCom, and use a slightly different ranking for the SimCom list. So we'll rank by that, and we'll do that analysis for today. And that'll make for a slightly longer video than what we'll do usually on the weekends. But going forward, we'll take a look at a candidate stock from the SimCom list and then see how that performed in the ensuing 6 month period. Our target objectives are going to be, does it get to 20% upside or 25% upside? We'll just keep it basic for now. And then as we develop and embellish these videos, we'll get deeper into some of the nuances of maybe going for bigger returns. So let's start with the IBD50 list first. We'll start there. And we'll go in order of the rankings that it occurred. And during that time period, the market was considered in an uptrend. Okay, so we're starting out with NVIDIA, and we can see NVIDIA was, let me just orient you to the chart first. So it's a simple chart. We got the S&P 500 at the top, the broader market, volume below. And then in the main pane, in the middle, we have the stock price. These are weekly bars. 1 week, one bar represents 1 week. And we just get, and the little hash on the bar is the closing price. So I didn't include the opening price in this view, but we can always add that. And then we have two moving averages. There's a 10-week moving average and a 40-week moving average, which are close cousins to the 50-day and the 200-day. This little marker down here in the vertical, so it's positioned 1 week prior to the weekend that we're looking for. Otherwise, the marker will cover the week that we were looking at. So the weekend closing price is what we would have been looking at for the stock of that week. And then we can see as the stock progressed each week how it panned out. Okay, so NVIDIA, we can see that it was in a kind of a flat base consolidation here. Actually, it doesn't do anything, drops into this base, comes out, and there's a little bit of action. Potentially, we'll have to look in the daily to see if this was a candidate breakout. Not a huge volume of the weekly, but it could have been. So let's just assume it was, and then it's moved up, almost 30%. So had you kept this on your list and stayed with it through its basing action, you could have gotten in this week, May, and then from there you would be rewarded pretty well. Okay, so that's what we'll do. So this one, obviously, NVIDIA, the number one rank in the RWD 50 as of that week. If you'd kept it on your watch list and monitored it, eventually would have paid out. Number second, let's look at ANET, Arista Networks. So we're over here. There's no base to work off. It drops into this base. It's been kind of in the basing action, and then potentially there's a cup and handle pattern there, it'll break out. So it just recently broken out, and it's up good for double digits. ServiceNow was kind of in a pullback mode back here, which is also within constraints of flat base. Breaks out but fails, it's probably earnings, drops into a strong pullback mode, forms the bottom, it picks up, and then this again, this is an earnings gap up here, which probably was viable. So let's assume it was, and cuts up, gets above the 50-day, and from there you could have had an entry, made your 20% target, and moved out. The stock had a bad drop last week. So both NVIDIA and ServiceNow could have paid your dividends. Moving on, Fortinet, so it was in a flat base, and then flat comes out of the flat base, gives you double-digit gains, round trips, forms another base, and it just moves sideways. So this one hasn't done anything of note. Broadcom, Avago, again, mini kind of square box type of base here, but drops back into a proper base, and it's just been on low volume, moving up. There's some volume here this week, which takes out the kind of highs over here. So that technically could have been an entry. Got a strong accumulation week here, and this one's up close to double digits, but not setting the barn on fire. Moving on, Taiwan Semiconductors, again, coming out of this little consolidation, price to peak it's set up, fails, drops into a deeper base, and similar pattern, low volume, just moving up. Netflix, so this one's been pretty strong, nice strong uptrend in a kind of a flat base consolidation, pretty tight, breaks out here, gives you a double-digit gain here, and then kind of drops into this double bottom base. So you got another double bottom base in here, which the breakout occurs over here, and from that breakout, you would have gotten your 20%. So that one was a keeper. Interactive brokers, so a little bit more fierce action. Breakout here, you actually get your 20%, and if you kept to your target, you would have been out. If you didn't, you're giving it back. Now it forms another flat cup and handle base here. Breakouts over here the last 3 weeks, and now it's moving up. So you got a good gains starting to build out. Axon, again, you have this kind of basing pattern here. It doesn't pops its head above it, so but that will break out, fails, and then this undercuts the structure here, comes up the right hand side. You've got a little action here, but doesn't quite meet our requirements for handling breakouts and bases. But since then, it's just meandered up, low volume. Make My Trip didn't do anything. If anything, it's kind of falling slowly to the downside. MTSI, again, made an attempt back here to break out, fails, forms a cup and handle, break out here. You have to check the daily to see if that really qualifies. But if it does, then you've got a 15%-ish move right there. Okay, moving on. Duolingo. So Duolingo in the base, yeah, actually breaks out, and you get a quite you get your 20% move, so that would have worked. And later on, you get another shot here. You get another 20%. So this one paid twice, and now it's pulling back in, probably making the formation of the left side of the basing pattern. Okay, Deckers. This one just no love. Got a failed attempt here, and it's just fallen off the wagon pretty badly. On the shoes again, attempted breakout, fails, comes back down, tries it, make an up move here. You got a little cup and handle now, which he hasn't taken out. So the pattern isn't super strong. And then let's just look at the 15th position in TRA. So this one doesn't give you too much to work with. Potential breakout attempt here, which failed, and then hasn't done anything since then. So overall, in the IBD 50, he had some good candidates if he had stayed with them. He had some 3 or 4 winners where you would have made your 20% moves. So pretty good showing from the IBD 50, as we would expect, because it is a good list. And if you don't have access to that, you can get that from Investors Business Daily. Okay, so let's take a look at the SimCom list next, and then we'll just take a look at the top 15, and they're ranked by a scoring score, which is something I use just to kind of position them in the absence of how IBD does it. All right, so Robinhood was the first one, and we can see this one actually broke out, gives you your 20%, sets up another base, and his other breakout since then. So you got 2 20%ers out of Hood. Dave, which has been one of the strongest stocks, so out of the flat base consolidation, makes an attempt. Obviously, doesn't really work. Drops back into another slightly longer base. And then here's the breakout there. You've gotten your 20. You actually got like 100%, and now it's given back some. And you have a sell signal potentially because it's now cut through the 10-week over there, but it paid out handsomely along the way. Palantir. So we have a breakout in Palantir over here. Goes up. You actually get your 20% pretty fast, but this one you may have kept because it's within 3 weeks. You may have held it for slightly longer. And if you did, let's say you hold it through here, and then it would have triggered your number one sell out of that basing period, but it retakes the averages later on, gets it back above the highs here. So if using an alternative entry mechanism, you probably could have re-entered Palantir back in April. You could also have used the market trigger back in the follow-through day, and you'd be up 60% or close to it. I ran, so this one didn't give any early joy, big base, and then finally you got a breakout cup, and then it's up more than 20% within 3 weeks. So again, you may use the up 20% in 3 weeks rule to play this if you bought this a few weeks ago. Coinbase. So Coinbase was already drifting down. It was forming the left side of the base. Since then, it's kind of moved back up. You got a nice cup and handle. Here's the breakout. And you would have gotten your 20% target. And in fact, you could still be in it depending on what rules you're applying. Celestica. So Celestica kind of pumped up, fails, and then forms this kind of double bottom pattern here. Here's the breakout. And since the breakout, it's up over 50%. So you met your 20% objective, met your 25% objective. If you're still in it because it hasn't triggered a sell rule, you'll be up close to 60% in it. Okay, moving up. HIMS. So HIMS, we see there's a breakout, it hits your 20% and then some. Also would have tried to keep you in with the up 20% in 3 weeks, but it would have shaken you out. And then this tries again. And don't really have a breakout after that. There's an attempted breakout here, but it didn't hold on the weekly. So probably wouldn't be in this at this stage. SoFi, again, we're looking at it here. There's attempted breakout there, fails. So you would have gone shaken out and then forms this base, breaks out in the last 3 weeks. It's already up 30% again, and pretty strong showing because it's up more than 20% in 3 weeks. Might be hanging on to that one. Rocket Lab out of this consolidation, tries to break out, obviously fails, drops into a base, recovers, a little bit of a handle, another attempt there, fails, but still then tries again here. This one works. But by this time, the pattern's kind of broken in. Unless you're using different entries and exits to your standard cancel and stuff. Okay, AMSC. AMSC didn't do much. There's an attempted breakout around here, which doesn't really comply with the rules. So you wouldn't have taken that, but you may have taken this one over here recently, and you'll be making some headway. And then HWM. HWM has been a solid performer, nice prior uptrend. We're in a little flat base here, it does break out there. It gives you a little bit of hope, gets up to almost up to double digits. And then it drops back down again into another little consolidation. Now, had you bought this around here, you on a closing week, you'd be down not much, but less than 1%. So you would still have been, you could still be in this position from here, and then you got rewarded for holding it. You're up 20% around there. You could have taken your winnings, and if you didn't and held on, now you're up over 50%. AT, so it's a bit choppy coming through here. Again, like most of the other stocks, there's a little consolidation zone, tries to break out, and then just tightens up a little bit, which is solid, and now it's time to move up. Netflix, so that'll be the same story as we covered under the IBD50. Court, which is Corcept Therapeutics. So this one, big downside reversal here, tries to come out of this base, probably an earnings gap up of some sort, and then downside reversal. And you bought this, you'd have been, shaken out, and you'd be out. Interactive Brokers we covered before, and that's the 15th. So from the SimCom list, there's a number of stocks that did particularly well. So Interactive Brokers, over the 6-month period, for example, this one's up about 27%. Court is up. Netflix is up quite a bit, around 40%. ATT30, HWM is up about 60%. AMSC 36, 35, 42, almost 80, 66, 43, 43, 77. That's the and then hood. So if we took the top three stocks from that week, hood, day, and Palantir, just those three, that tells us that had you just taken all of those or any one of those three, you would have actually reached your targets handsomely. Okay, so this is just an reintroductory video back to get our process squared off. There's been a bit of a hiatus while I've been working on the AI project and how that relates to stocks and stuff like that. But what we'll start doing is we'll start doing this on a more regular frequency. We'll take a look at the look back, and we'll take a look at 6 months, and we may end up tightening that down to 3 months. But so I think 6 months is a good time, because sometimes, as you'll notice, it can take some time for a stock on a watch list to actually work through its base and then take off. So if you squeeze it too tight, you'll miss the opportunity. So 6 months is a good compromise. This week we also looked at the IBD50. We won't do that every week. We'll focus in on most of the SimCom lists, unless there's something notable from the IBD50 as well. And then as in the weeks ahead, we'll start to take a look at a little bit more of the winning stocks. So, for example, with hood, for example, that's on the screen, we could take a look at hood and say, how could this have been played a little bit better? So there'll probably be two flavors of videos. This one, the look back, and then potentially a look forward one, which will be at the once the list is built on Sunday night. So either probably a Monday video just to see what's in the list and try and call out 3, 4, 5 selections out of that are looking good. And then might want to track a little bit longer, because the list is built every week. And as always, if you're not familiar with the SimCom group, it's a crowdsourcing group. It's all free, and the email simcom1999@gmail.com. Just reach out there, and then we can get you connected into the process. Okay, so thanks for watching, thanks for listening, and see you next time. Goodbye.